Welcome to Leadership Spotlight, a podcast that shines the spotlight on L&D and HR leaders from leading businesses around the world. Learn the ins and outs of everyday leadership, what it means to be a leader, and all the learning and skilling that goes into making a successful leader that you would like to follow. So lean in and lead on. A long-standing career across diverse industries and roles while giving you the experience has a tendency to outrun you if you don't keep up with the disruptions. What one needs is the discipline to observe, learn, and adapt with the evolving world of work and life, and the resilience to bounce back and rise higher. Qualities that are synonymous with Chris Joshua, a multifaceted and goal-oriented professional with over 35 years of excellence in human resources, the current head talent development for Arcolab, a wholly owned subsidiary of Strides Group. She has been trailblazing the corporate space with her values and beliefs grounded in humanness and empathy. Her quiet confidence and simple elegance is evident in her work and communication as she takes changes in her stride and thrives in challenging environments. With a motto of drive, discipline, and dedication, Chris is the changing face of today's times. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Pranjali. Look forward to the conversation.
I would start with your illustrious career in itself. It spans diverse industries and roles for over 35 years. And this is where I want you to start. How this all began. So take me back to the young Chris, fresh out of college, with dreams and ambitions in your eyes. How did it start from there?
Okay. I started my career very young. I had just finished my diploma in commercial practice. And I did that mainly because it would fetch me a job quickly. And at that point in time, there were some financial difficulties that my father was going through, and I wanted to support him, much to his disappointment and his aspiration and the school with which I studied. The aspiration was that I become a doctor. And I think in those days, becoming a doctor was ambition for every parent. And I think if you were a good student in school, the school teachers also the school management would have wanted you to do that. In that sense, I was a disappointment to both my school as well as my father, because I ended up doing a diploma course in commercial practice with the aim of getting a job. And yes, as soon as I finished that, I completed my exam, and within a month, I landed myself a job. And I think from that humble beginnings to leading a function, I have come a long way, never once looking back. Like I told you, I never wanted to be a doctor. I just wanted to join a company because of my personality of being a very quiet person, shy person, not a shy person, but quiet rather, and more into self than meeting up with people and all that. The profession I chose at that time suited me perfectly well, doing things behind the scenes and doing it well every time. I started my career working for a ex-DIG of police in a small firm, worked there for about 6 years. And then, of course, I had to move to Bombay because my husband being in the defense and a traveling job, I had to join him in Bombay. I thought I'd stay at home, become a housewife, but that was not me again. So I started working in Bombay for some time. I was there for 5 years, and then my husband and I decided that I need to have a career for myself because he was moving squadrons, which means that though he'll be a part of a certain squadron, he'll be moving from place to place. And he said, this is the right for you to start your career back. So I came back to Bangalore. Work initially just to get into the field of working. I worked for Fortis, which was then Vocard, for some time, and then I moved to Caterpillar, to Group Bond. Again, I was working in the HR at that time, management development, helping the GM at that point in time. Then I moved to Caterpillar, which was a turning point, or may I say a passage in my career where I was looking at always behind the scenes type of a job. Here I was working for the president of the organization, and I had a expat as a boss, so he was looking at growing people, and I think that was a turning point for me, the first turning point for me. So I worked there for some time. I think from inward looking, it became outward looking for me. And then I started getting involved in the HR there, or at least I could say people affairs of the organization, not really being in human resource. Then I moved to Myco Bosch. It was Myco at that time, and now, of course, it is called Bosch. I think I left the organization around the time when Bosch took over the complete stake in the organization and moved from being Myco to Bosch. This was the second turning point. I think I would say that this is the most impactful change for me in my career, because I was working for expats all along, for Germans and an Englishman during my span of 10 years in Bosch. And each one of my bosses did make a difference to me in terms of how I moved away from being an introvert. I wouldn't say I became an extrovert, but at least looking at people, and there was an innate quality in myself of connecting with people, and I think this became stronger at this point in time. Then I moved to Advanus Therapeutics, which is R&D, Drug Discovery and Development Organization. Third change in my career, as in I was executive assistant to the CEO, involved with all the affairs of the organization, including being part of the core divestment team when the Tatas decided to exit this organization. So I learned a lot during the span of 10 years in Advanus, and this is where I made my switch also as head of HR. I initially took this on as an additional responsibility in addition to taking care of the CEO's office. And then within a span of 1 year, I became I was completely responsible for HR in this organization. Towards the end of 11 years in Advanus, actually I spent around 11 years there, I decided to hang up my boots. The divestment happened and I was not very happy with the corporate affairs. And I thought, let me hang up my boots. But then strides happened. And this is where I continued in the next 4 years. And this is where I am now. So currently I'm part of Arcolab, which is actually shared service organization of a Strides group of companies. And we offer our services to all the group entities. So that's about my career, Pranjali. It has been eventful. It has been, there have been a lot of ups and downs, but I've thoroughly enjoyed all the passages during my career. And I've never once looked back in these times, and I'm looking forward to the future. Every passage in both my personal and professional life has been very interesting. And now I think I'm at the cusp of CRISP 4.0, both personally and professionally, and looking forward to it.
That's one hell of a journey, Chris. What is the most interesting to me is that you could flip a rather challenging start. As you said, your inability to pursue a career in medicine, something that your family and your college expected you to do, which was, as you say, the disappointment to your loved ones as well. And then to grow and have so many turning points and evolve not just professionally, but personally. I think that's just beautiful. So do you think you can attribute this to some qualities that you tap into as you grow from one point to another? As you said, you're now in your latest avatar of 0.0. Where are you going next? Is there some quality that you attribute this to?
Yes. So I always was a very disciplined person since my childhood. And that's what my parents used to say. I was very, I used to be very particular about cleanliness and particular about what I eat, what I wear. So I think that started from, it must be an innate quality. I'm very disciplined. I can say again, drive, discipline and determination is what I think are the qualities that has helped me reach where I am now. And of course, built in into this is vociferous need for learning new things and being resilient in the face of adversity. It's not that in the 35 years I've not gone through or faced some adversities. I did face some, but I think I've been able to, succeed or keep moving forward because of me being resilient and, of course, balanced way of looking at things. I think these are some of the qualities which have helped me.
I agree completely, Chris. I think discipline, resilience, having balanced mindset, all of these are critical to ensuring that you are stable and progressing in your career today, but at the same time are also able to carve the path out for where you want to go. I also think that resilience and discipline, they are muscles. The more you exercise them, the stronger it gets.
Yes.
Chris, you also mentioned about some highs and lows. What I'm the most interested in is understanding where your learnings came from. It's my personal belief that some of our mistakes and lows are our biggest teachers.
One of my strengths is being relaxed and balanced about things, but sometimes, and also being humble about what I do. Like I told you, I always believed in being behind the scenes, and sometimes that does not help you, and it might be your not a weakness, but somewhere it pulls you down at times. So there was one such incident which happened in while I was in Brook Pond, which was, I think, was a turning point in me looking deeper into why people behave the way people behave, why we do what we do, why we don't do what we don't do. So some of these questions I started introspecting. Again, it was an introspection. And I think one of our, it was not a mistake, but it was about dealing with people in the right manner was one of my learning, or which actually helped me in being a person with a bit of change in handling things. I do not know if that answers your question, Pranjali.
It does, Chris, because I think people dynamics have so many moving parts. It's not easy to categorize people into a single bucket. So it's a learning every single day. To adapt to that learning is a skill. And I understand where you say that it's been one of your biggest learnings, because understanding how to cope with a person or a group of people that evolve and grow day on day is something that needs to be a part of everyone's skill set.
Yes.
Now, because we're talking of people's behavior, I am tempted to ask you, how have you seen people's behavior evolve in workplaces? Now, what I'm really trying to understand is with the millennial workforce coming in the workplace, how has the people dynamics changed overall?
I'll have to say, to answer this question, I'll also have to talk about how the workplace itself has evolved. Okay, 35 years is a long time. It's over 35 years. And workplace is a very different place to what it used to be when I first started my career. From cubicles and C-suites, it has changed to open offices, from landlines, hard copies to Zoom calls, Microsoft Teams and cloud. I used to sit and file papers in files at one point in time, and I don't see anybody doing that these days. From introduction of new technology and tools, where I was so excited when the first big, the computer came into the office, trying to learn all those things. We have reached the rising trend of remote working now. The workplace has adapted in a number of ways to cater to changes in employee needs and working styles. Gone are the days when we were asked to be glued to your workplace and just focus on what you're doing. To now, what we're talking about is social collaboration. The tech trends have transformed the way we work. And so similarly, we see that the mindsets also have changed. We are looking at more of collaboration than working in silos. It's more of, it's less of competition. It might still be there because people are people, but it has changed to collaboration more so. And this is something that I see a big change from what it used to be to now. We are seeing workplace which is full of, consisting of members spread across different generations, baby boomers to then, what do you call them, Zers. So it's the mindset has changed from employee satisfaction to employee engagement. This is the biggest thing that I see.
Absolutely, Chris, and you're so right. Most of the things you mentioned may not even be as a part of the new generation's per se vocab. So landlines, I'm sure my kid at age 6 does not even understand what a landline means.
Yeah.
And that is how far technology and we have come along the way.
Yes.
So then, Chris, you mentioned about working earlier in an office where things were much different, either in terms of the processes or either in terms of the documentation, the way of working. And because technology and digital tools are such a key part of the workplace today, how are you staying in tune with the times?
It has happened. At least I've been able to be on, I cannot say I'm an expert with the technology, but I've been able to keep abreast mainly because of my keen interest in learning or continuously upskilling myself. And even if I have to learn from the junior most member of my team, I do not hesitate. If I do not know something, recently I was supposed to send an invite on Microsoft Teams to my manager, and I did not know how to do that. And I had to take the help of one of my team members who was very good in that. So as long as you are grounded in terms of knowing your what you do not know, as long as you accept what you do not know and then move towards learning that aspect, I think you can, any amount of digital transformation you can cope up with. It is the mindset that you should have on when we talk about digital transformation. It is a maturity that we should have in accepting the changes and taking things forward in upskilling or reskilling yourself, which is very important.
Appreciate your honesty in accepting that you did not know a particular thing, but you were open enough to reach out to a person who could help you.
Yes.
Do you think, Chris, all of this, what you said, the upskilling or the learning, does it stem from self-awareness? Because my question is, if someone is not even aware of what he or she is not capable of or capable of, how can that person ever grow?
Self-awareness is the biggest aspect in your career. Okay, if you're not aware of yourself, what are your strengths, what are your areas of development, and if there is no acceptance of your areas of development, then I do not think you go a long way in your career. And this is something that I even talk to my peers or within my team. This is something that I talk about, that first of all, there is a need for you to be aware of yourself. And most of the programs that we do, we include self-awareness in our programs as one of the initial starting phase of learning.
I'm curious to learn more about this because I think the tools needed to be self-aware will help people to make that distance or connect the dots between the two. So how do you cultivate self-awareness?
Personally, introspection is the first step. Understanding, like I said already, understanding yourself, what makes you tick, what are your strengths, what is that you need to, what are your areas of development. I think that's the first step towards self-awareness. Being mindful is another step towards self-awareness.
Agreed. Introspection, mindfulness, and the ability to accept the way you are, but know that you can grow from point A to point B is key.
Yes.
All right. I will come to the current situation we are in. As a people leader, what is your advice to HR or people-centric functions in general, as well as individuals like me and others, on handling crises like COVID-19 and thriving in challenging times in general?
I told you one of my friends is resilience, and this is something that everybody needs to build in themselves. When the COVID-19 happened, it came as a surprise to everybody. Whatever the post-COVID events that are happening is a surprise. None of us were ready for this. It also showed us how fragile or vulnerable we are, and this type of COVID is just one of them. Life throws a lot of curved balls every now and then at us, and your ability to tackle that with positivity, resilience, being collaborative with people is something that will, bring us out of each of these curved balls that is thrown, or tackle each of these curved balls that is thrown at us.
Are you then suggesting that while we take all the current challenges in our stride, we also have strategies to future-proof ourselves?
Yes.
Do you have any ideas on how we can?
I would say it is, firstly, you need to make yourself strong. That's the first thing. When, the captain of the ship should be, when I say that, if you're leading a team, it's the captain of the ship. If you're leading, if you're at home, it is you take that responsibility of taking care of your loved ones. So for all this, you need to be strong, physically and mentally. Okay, so I would say it comes from there. Build for positivity within yourself and among your team or in the family. Then you can face anything that comes towards you. Fourth is the strategies on tackling each one. I'm sure every curveball which is thrown at us will have a different strategy to, tackle that. But while you strategize for those, first is to have that positivity and resilience. That is the most important strategy that I would say. But don't overdo anything.
You said it, Chris, and you speak my language. I am a believer that if you have your mind to something, your body, your spirit, and everything else will follow.
Yes.
All right, so before I let you go, what is your leadership mantra?
Since I like reading, I read a bit, and there is something which caught my attention a long time ago. It's Lao Tzu, Taoist philosopher, who says, a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim is fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. And I believe in this. So there are times, Sunanda from my team is the most vociferous one. She says, Chris, why don't you tell the people that these are so many things that we have done and it should be known? I always tell her, our work should speak for itself and you should not talk about it. So these are some of the things that I believe in. I believe in humane leadership. I believe in holding the door open. A leader should walk fast, push ahead, open doors, being mindful of his team, check their progress and help them get past the barriers that they might be facing. This is very much akin to my personal purpose in life, that is to awaken great spirits within others and help them, pursue their personal growth consciously.
Amen to that. Empowerment, breeding leaders, yes. Creating an environment that is conducive to leadership. I think these Absolutely. Are all the key elements to a leadership mantra.
It was a long-winded mantra, but I do not believe in a liner. I believe a lot is the answer to leadership mantra. But I feel it's just not one thing, but a combination of other things will make a good leader. But the main thing is holding the door open for others.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for opening your 35 long career journey to us, your personal as well as the professional learnings. It was a great, insightful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranjali. I thoroughly enjoyed the talk.
Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Spotlight. To learn how you can go from learning to leading, visit www.plethoralearning.com. See you next time.